It was the most yards ever gained by a team against a Greg Williams coach team or a Greg Williams defense. The second most points scored against a Greg Williams team or defense. Pretty special because the Los Angeles Rams are a good defensive football team. And to see the Saints do what they did to this defense was really something to behold. 49-21. Could have scored more. It's the most points by any team in the NFL this season. Drew Brees was tremendous. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran for his score. Mark Ingram was superb. Rushed for 146 yards, caught a touchdown pass, and ran like a man obsessed. And the Saints' offensive line was just outstanding. So, Brian, as we break down the game, brilliant performance by the Saints. Defense pitched a shutout in the second half after maybe struggling a bit early against a rookie Jared Goff. But the storyline clearly surrounds Sean Payton and Greg Williams. And it was really the storyline going in. They kind of kept that quiet and played it down, but they couldn't keep it quiet once the game started. You could see how badly Sean Payton not only wanted to win, but win big. And to see his antics on the sidelines and how emotional he was kind of told you that. And it really did remind you of Sean Payton circa 2009, didn't it?
Yeah, I absolutely right, Kenny. It was it's been a while since we've seen Sean Payton so animated, and obviously this game was personal. I mean, Sean took over play calling for the game, and he dialed up, particularly that flea flicker when they're up 21 points. You know that this was personal.
Rick, obviously, memories are long, and sometimes some wounds healed and sometimes they don't heal. It's obvious that there was animosity here. And anybody that was around the Saints knows that Sean Payton and Greg Williams didn't get along when they were here. But Greg Williams is a very good coach, so they tolerated it until they couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, he was part of that Super Bowl team, so you got to, take your hats off to him for that. But yesterday, he was outmanned. I mean, the Saints beat him in the trenches. They beat him all over the field. So it was like whatever they tried to do, the Saints had an answer for it. So it really, yesterday was the Saints' best game that they put forward, and I think that, not only for coach, I think the team came out and supported coach the way they played.
This is an improved football team. The New Orleans Saints they're improving almost week to week. And it's a shame because they just might run out of time. Because if you take away, and you can't do it, you take away those special teams, mess ups that they've had, their record would be substantially better.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, Drew Brees continues to have not only a Pro Bowl year, but he has got to be strongly in the conversation for MVP. This guy is not playing like he's 37, that's for sure. But they dialed up everything beautifully yesterday. And you're right, Kenny. You look back at some of the gaffes that were made earlier and some of the missteps earlier in the season. They're 5-6. Unfortunately, yesterday Atlanta wins and Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that later, but those are 2 big wins for those clubs.
Well, this was a close game at halftime, and then came the second half of the game, and the Saints were totally dominant in pretty much every facet. The second half numbers belie that. The Saints shut out the Rams in the second half. The first downs, 11 of their 27. The total yards, 313 to 60 in the second half. And Ricky, a number you really like down there, running the ball. They ran for 146 yards in the second half. None bigger than the 61-yard run by Ingram to start the second half.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was saying. They won through the trenches. They come out and they hit the Rams right in the mouth like they're supposed to, and they took control of the game. But just looking at Fisher, I mean, he really not coaching well. I look at him all year long, and the Rams is not just being the team that they look. You thought they had a great defense, and every week looked like they're getting worse. So it looked like the guys done quit on him, But even though the Saints look great, the team that they look great against really didn't put up a fight. I mean, they kind of gave up. And I just like the way Coach Payton called the plays yesterday, and you can see that he was ready for them.
It's hard to imagine. Both you guys alluded to the Rams defense. Rams were giving up 318 yards and 18.7 points a game. The Saints obliterated them. I mean, they had their way with them. And you know what, Kenny? I wish sometimes that Sean Payton would have that fervor that Cam Jordan described. I wish he would come in with that kind of fight. And if that's what it means for this club to maybe overtake and continue to play well, then by golly, dadgummit, do it.
Well, this was vintage Sean Payton. They went for it on 4th down twice, made it both times, scored a touchdown on one. Obviously, the throwback pass or the double pass, or call it what you may, is a topic of conversation. The aggressiveness, the emotion on the sidelines. Ricky, I really think that that's what Saints fans want to see from Coach, and when he was most successful, that's how he was.
Well, I mean, that shows you that he into it. I mean, and to me, yesterday, he was into the game. You know, a lot of time he be out there, he call the plays, he walk up and down like nonchalant. But yesterday, he had that fire that you was looking for. He had that fire in Super Bowl year. So, you know, that's what the fans want to see from him. They want to see that fire in him, and he showed it yesterday.
And some people observed him glaring over at the Rams sideline after some of the Saints' big plays. And it really is a legitimate point of discussion on two fronts. Number one, does Peyton view Greg Williams as the reason he was suspended for a year and cost him a salary? Perhaps he does, but did the Saints not know about what was going on? Of course they did. That goes without saying. Number two, was it running up the score or rubbing it in with the double pass? Brian, it's a legitimate question. I don't necessarily see it that way in the NFL. They're paid to play. At the same time, it's clear they were trying to score.
Yeah, and Kenny, you bring up an excellent point, and I think in the last 24, 36 hours, you know, look, Greg Williams was part of their coaching regime, okay, when the stuff came down, all right? You can't ignore that, all right? And Sean Payton runs the football operations in a sense, all right? So let's not dismiss that. Great point, Kenny. And then secondly, I don't think there's any doubt that flea flicker, whatever you want to call it, was meant to run up the score and to further embarrass Greg Williams, which I've got no problems with that.
Yeah, but you could have held that play till another day.
Yeah, you could have. Well, he's, you know.
Everybody going to be looking for that play.
I love Sean Payton's explanation. There's the tendency was there, and they've been working on it. And
yeah. Right, so everybody going to be looking for that play the rest of the year.
I know. You're right.
Well, he even rubbed some more salt in the wound when he talked about how Colston didn't want to run it. We let Lance do it, and he threw interceptions all over the place.
Right.
So he kind of rubbed salt in the wound, and of course it was a perfect throw by Willie Snead.
Yes.
And by the way, a good catch by Hightower on the dead run.
And
then
a
he
juke,
makes a great
and a
move.
good move.
Okay, I know how Coach Payton feels. I went to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And when I came back to play the Saints, it was kind of like, you know, I know we had a way better team than the Saints, and we was going to beat the Saints. But my love for the Saints was, I know we was going to win the ball game, but I really hated playing my old team.
Yeah.
So, but I know that we had such a better team. We was going to beat them, and we was headed to the Super Bowl. But I know how it make you feel to come back and play your old team. Same thing with him playing Greg. He wanted to beat him, but, I don't think that, it was as worse as people tried to make like it is.
I'll tell you what, if there was a play of the game for me before we move on to defense, it was Tim Hightower's blitz pickup where he absolutely destroyed a Rams linebacker on a touchdown throw, decked him, laid him low, and the guy's coming full speed. That's what winning football is all about. Brilliant block by Hightower, cleared the path for a touchdown pass. The Saints offense has been great all year, best in the league perhaps. The Saints defense, not so much, but that's changing. This is a defense that clearly has improved and continues to improve. The numbers bear that out. First 8 games, 408.5 yards per game, 6.4 yards per play. And then forward down to the last couple of games. Carolina only gave up 223 yards, 3.6 yards per play, and then 247 and 4.8 a play to Los Angeles. And when you factor in the second half, that number is far less. So obviously, this is a much improved defense. Ricky, I have an idea as to why, but why is this defense improving?
Well, some of the guys getting healthy. You got that first round pick. He back getting healthy. Bro played yesterday, and he was all the way on the first number 1 receiver everywhere he went. So once the defense get healthy, the coach can kind of like call some of the plays he want to call, and that's the whole key to it. And then Cam playing good, Nick playing a lot better. These guys been more consistent, and that's what you see what they getting from the defense. They get more consistent play.
I tell you what, I think there's 2 guys, and I agree with you, Ricky, on that. I think one is Donnell Ellerby's back on the field and being healthy, and he's out there, okay? And even if he doesn't get a full complement of snaps every game, just his presence when he is out there makes a big difference. And look, I've taken my shots at Jarris Byrd. Jarris Byrd maybe is not making big plays, but he's being consistent, he's staying healthy, and he's helping solidify the back end of that secondary, and that's important. And then Kenny Vaccaro is playing really lights out right now.
Well, you check a player like Byrd, he can only play when he have somebody up front doing their job. And only problem we have with him is when he don't have anybody with the pass rushing guys have a long time to throw the ball, that's when he get in trouble. But he's the kind of guy that, like Hopper, if you got somebody putting pressure on the quarterback got to do something within the first 2 or 3 seconds, then he can play football. But if you give somebody 6, 7, 8 seconds, he can't play football. So he needs to have that tight from the front for all of him to play good football.
Real quick though, but they paid Bird $54 million to get takeaways.
Right,
okay,
but also they paid him $54 million on what they seen him doing with Buffalo, with the other team.
that's all you can go by.
Right, so
he's got to do that
right,
here.
So you got to play the same type of defense. You got to put the defense with some pressure on the quarterback for him to play good.
Okay. So what you're saying is what you see is what you don't get. Right. Something like that.
Right.
Listen, it's Ellerby. Boy, does he play fast.
Yeah, he does.
It's Rankins, who's got a real chance. Big sack fumble yesterday. It's Delvin Breaux, changes everything in terms of coverage. But it's also Cam Jordan, who is truly an elite player. Pro Football Focus ranks him as the number 1 or 2 guy in the NFL this year as a defensive end in terms of his effectiveness. And then Craig Robertson has been solid. Kenny Vaccaro has been outstanding of late. So suddenly you're talking about some players on the defensive side of the football. And all of a sudden you're talking about a team having more success. Now, about that kick return game and that kick coverage game, that's another story for another day. It's still not there by any stretch of the imagination. But this is an improving team. And of course, as always, sportsNOLA.com is very thankful to our good and great friends at Premier Automotive, and in particular, Premier Nissan of Metairie, the #1 volume Nissan dealer in the state of Louisiana. Premier Nissan of Metairie is located at 6636 Veterans Memorial Boulevard and is home of the Nissan College Grad Finance Program and the lifetime powertrain warranty. Unlimited miles, unlimited time on every Nissan. You'll get a reliable and stylish new or used car at prices you can afford. Stop in to test drive your dream car or visit PremierNissan.net to shop the expansive inventory. Back to talk NFL when Sports NOLA TV continues.